Hello guys, once again it's Matt, and today we have another video. Thank you all the members, all the patrons. Make sure to subscribe and let's get into it, guys. And I wanted to talk about the most plausible or the most likely versions of the F-111 that we might get in the future. There are a lot of variants of the aircraft, and we are getting the first one, the F-111A, which is kind of underwhelming in certain situations like air-to-air missiles and guided stuff. But obviously it is a late 60s version of the F-111, right? So obviously it will be kind of limited. But in the future we might see some very advanced versions. So let's talk about some of the versions that we might see. We're not gonna comment on the F-111K, for example, that never saw service, and we're not gonna comment on the FB111 as well, or the EF111 as well, because those versions, I don't think they are going to be added. The FB111, remember, is a strategic bomber version of the 111, and the Raven is a seed aircraft, so basically suppression of enemy air defenses, okay? Both these aircraft, we don't know if they're going to come or not to the game. The FB is sometimes in the later model called the, sometimes no, it's officially after a while it became the F-111G, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, those ones we're not gonna talk about. We're going to talk about the D, E, F, B, and C variants. So starting with the D variant. The D variant is basically a F-111A upgraded, okay? The objective was to introduce the Mark II avionics, so more powerful engines as well, improve it intake geometry, and a glass cockpit with better radars and everything like that. Basically, it reached initial operation capability in 1972. It had a stronger engine, around 82 kilonewtons, a little bit stronger, not by much. And it had a better radar, better systems to deploy weapons, more digital stuff. But it was quite problematic. It had some delays on the development. And basically, there isn't anything like fully confirming that it could use more advanced missiles or guided stuff, to be honest. It is on the game itself, it would probably be very, very similar to the A. Even the air-to-air missiles, I mean, I couldn't confirm 100%, but they probably never used two advanced missiles as well because of the way that the pylons were or something like that. But anyway, it was kind of limited to its time as well, So I don't see the F-111D coming up just because it kind of doesn't have a place. It is basically the F-111A for the game, okay? Of course, in real life, it was a pretty significant difference, but in the game itself, the engines are pretty much the same. The glass cockpit, I mean, not gonna change too much. And because of the delays, we talk about of the development of the D variant, they made the 111E, and that's a simplified F-111 compared to the D, basically, right? So it is a normal F-111. It has the TF-30P3 initially, and the Mark I avionics. It means that it doesn't have the glass cockpit or the improved, digital stuff. But because of the delays, as I said, of the D variant and problems with the very modern systems at the time of the D, the F-111E was ordered in 1968, and the initial operational capability occurred in late 1969. So again, it saw action in the Gulf War, and some of the F-111Es received an avionics modernization program and improved the TF-30P-109s in the early 90s. These aircraft, again, unless they add a very late version of the F-111E, they are pretty much very similar to the F-111A. So unless they add a different type of missile or something to go with it, I don't see them adding these two. But I mean, I could be wrong. As I said, it all comes down to the year that they want to add. For example, if they add an F-111E from the 70s, it will be very similar to the A variant that we're already going to have, so no need. But if you're going to add an early 90s version of the F-111E, then maybe there is a possibility. But why do I say that they're probably not going to add these two? Because Gaijin has a little bit of a tendency to just jump some variants, add the first variant, and then just because there isn't much of a difference between the middle variant to the final variant or the middle variant to the earlier variant, they normally just jump for the final version. And the final version exists. It's the F-111F. The F-111F was the final variant produced for the USAF, right? So it has a more modern kind of take on the F-111, but less expensive as well. It uses the Mark II-B avionics system, so it is an improvement over the D variant. It has a more powerful, from the get-go, TF30P100 engine, strengthened wing carry through box, and basically with the engine, it had a substantially more power, you know, around 112 kilonewtons of afterburning thrust, so 35% more thrust than the A and E variants, so very, very strong. And later they were upgraded to the 109 version of the TF30 as well, between 1985 and 86. But the main thing about it is that it has better avionics, of course, better radars and stuff, but it was equipped with the AVQ 26 pave track FLIR system. So it has basically a laser designator with a TV camera, right? Which enabled it to be using precision laser guided ammunition. It is very, very, very advanced for the time. It is from the 80s, of course, this upgrade, but basically it would mean that it would take the paveway bombs, you know, with the pave track FLIR, and of course it would use missiles from the time, so A9Ls, A9Ms, something like that. So this is the version that I think it might be probably the better version to be added, because the D and the E, they are not that different from the A. And even if they want to add a very late E, I mean, they might as well just add the F, right? Which is the best version of the F-111. So this is the version to look for. This is the version that we need to wait for. This is going to be fun. So laser guided stuff, much better performance, you know, in the engine, like 35% more thrust, way more, and just overall better missiles for self-defense. Everything was better in these aircraft, and this is the pinnacle of the F-111. And then we have the two last variants that we're going to talk about, the B variant and the C variant. The C variant, guys, it is basically just an export version of the A for Australia, but it has some different things like a longer F-111B wing and a strengthened FB-111A landing gear, and so on and so on. The good part about this is that in the 90s, it was actually upgraded to use the PaveTech laser infrared targeting system, so it can actually use laser guided bombs and stuff like that. And it also has a upgraded TF30 with the P108 version of the engine. So it is basically just an F-111A, but Australian with a little bit of spice. It can be a squadron vehicle for the US. I mean, we already have the Abrams there, so it would make sense to see the Australian F-111 there, but also there are people asking for it on the UK. My opinion, like, kind of doesn't matter. I just want to see this aircraft because I think it's really, really cool. I really don't care if it's in the US or the UK, but Gaijin already pronounced it that probably this thing will not be added to the UK if it's ever added, okay? Because the UK has the Tornadoes, which basically fit in that role. And of course, we already have the Abrams in the US, the Australian Abrams, so it wouldn't make a lot of sense to have a full American aircraft in the UK in that sense, if they are trying to go with the same line that they already had, right? And then we have the F-111B. The B variant was interesting. It is a fleet air defense, so it has the AAWG-9, the radar of the F-14, and it uses the AIM-54 Phoenix. So it is basically a competitor to the F-14. The F-14 was actually chosen over the F-111 because of the maneuverability of it, of the Tomcat, right? So yeah, but basically it has a longer wing and some minor differences, but the main thing is that it would be a fleet air defense. This thing should be perfect if they want to add as a premium event or squadron vehicle as well. And here we have it, guys. 5 F-111s that we might see in the future. I gotta be honest, F-111D, F-111E, and the F-111B I think are the least likely ones to come. It doesn't mean that it's impossible, but I think they are very, you know, the D and E are not that different from the A, And if they want to add a more modern version of the E, with upgrades and stuff, why not just add the F, you know, which is much better. And the F-111B, I think it's, I mean, if they want to try something different, it would be very cool, but it's not a, I mean, never saw service, so I can see they never adding it, you know. And the C variant, I think it's definitely going to come, and the F variant, as I said, I already explained why. So these are the 5 variants, these are the 5 F-111s that I think should come to the game, at least the F, at least the C, but anyway, the 5 variants. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments what is your favorite F-111 and what version do you want to see in the game. Bye guys, see you.